Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. Today's episode is called Mike Tyson, Money, Power, and the Truth. Heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson has led an incredible life. Today we're going to discuss some of the sources of what we believe to be his success. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, follow, and comment on the show, as well as to encourage you to try a new service called HollywoodIsCalling.com. It's a company that allows you to purchase live calls with over 100 celebrities. You can purchase a live 15-second call for $19.95 or a live 30-second call for $29.95. Give it a try. It's a lot of fun for yourself or as a gift purchase for somebody you care about. Once again, that's HollywoodIsCalling.com. Now let's get started. In 1986, Mike Tyson became the heavyweight boxing champion of the world at the age of 20, youngest ever. People who've watched his stunning rise to success have always marveled at his skill and his power. We've done a lot of research and we found much more than that to Mike Tyson. You know, we have observed his success in sports, entertainment, business, and we've also been watching his podcast. It's called Hot Boxing, and it has given us some additional insight into why he has succeeded as often as he has. Beneath all of his success, of course, was his boxing career. As a young man, Tyson met boxing coach Cus D'Amato, who gave him the training and the boxing education he needed to become the youngest heavyweight champion ever. As we studied the early years of Mike Tyson, we see that this portion of his life was the perfect intersection between the vision, the genius, and the experience of his trainer, Cus D'Amato, and the furious dedication and work ethic of a young Mike Tyson who was really determined to excel so much that he would be able to escape his life of poverty. Time and time again, you know, we see highly successful people in various professionals propelled forward to achieving extraordinary things because they were driven by the need to overcome the absence of a father figure in their lives. Mike Tyson was raised by his mother, and like so many men in that position, this somehow created a need in him to achieve success. When Mike met Cus D'Amato, this somehow filled a fatherly role for Mike, and because of that, Cus was able to teach Mike and guide him in ways that ignited his ambition to a level that is just really extraordinary. There's something about that bond, between a male mentor and a young man who never had a father figure. It's an extraordinary bond. After a few years of intense training, it was almost as though Mike now wanted to prove himself to Cus, his trainer, to his absentee real father, and to himself, all at the same time. That's a tremendous amount of motivation and inspiration, and for a guy like Mike, it served as the rocket fuel to drive his ambition. In November of 1986, Tyson became the heavyweight champion. At this point, both his mother and his trainer, Cus D'Amato, had already passed away. What's interesting about that is that everything Cus had taught him, all the skills, the training, and the abilities Cus helped him forge within him, just began to grow and helped him achieve all his success. It was as though Mike was imbued with, ferocity and overdrive. Mike continued winning one fight after another. But his personal life was beginning to experience challenges. It's at this point that we start to see a pattern emerge, and that is that Mike began to struggle with drugs and bad choices that would completely alter the trajectory of his life. At the same time, Mike was making mountains of money. He was spending it everywhere. Everywhere he went, he was buying houses and cars and just flushing the money away, buying things that made no sense, and then repeating that mistake over and over and over. In 1990, Mike lost his title to Buster Douglas in a fight that took place in Tokyo. It was an amazing boxing event because it seemed as though the universe was telling Mike that he needs to make some serious changes. Mike went on to spend 3 years in prison for a crime he committed, and during that time he converted to Islam. As a boxer, it was his tremendous discipline that allowed him to achieve success. Now it was his Islamic beliefs which imposed a new and enhanced level of discipline on Mike that motivated him to become even more successful. They say the best financial lesson you can learn about money is to lose some of it. Once you do that, not only do you appreciate it more, but you also start to manage it with greater care and concern. In 2003, Mike Tyson filed for bankruptcy. Filing for bankruptcy is one of those moments in a person's life when it's impossible to continue lying to yourself. Bankruptcy is like looking into a mirror that tells you nothing but the truth. Mike continued to experience both challenges and success throughout the next few years. His boxing career was essentially over, but he would still continue to fight just to earn paychecks. He would go on to say that his heart just wasn't in it anymore, and that was obvious from watching his fights. In February of 2013, Tyson debuted a one-man show called Mike Tyson, Undisputed Truth. He said the show was written by his wife. It was about his personal and professional life on stage. After taking it on a 36-city, 3-month tour, it went on to air on HBO at the end of that same year. This was when we saw the debut of entrepreneurial Mike Tyson, as he began to take matters into his own hands to create this one-man show and do it in a way that would make it appropriate for a national audience and help him raise enough money to get out of debt. After this, Mike would go on to appear in a number of movies and TV shows over the coming years, but what really caught our attention was his Hot Boxing podcast on YouTube. Hot Boxing is a long-form podcast that has Mike and his co-hosts discussing various topics of interest. Sometimes they talk about news events, and sometimes they just interview celebrity guests. If you've seen a few episodes of his show, then you quickly realize how well-read Mike Tyson is. He often talks about his love of reading, and it's really apparent during his interviews. Having seen a number of his episodes, I can tell you that Mike likes to listen to his guests, and then when you least expect it, he enters the conversation with a quote from a classical book that he's read, and it's nothing short of perfect. You would never expect the things that come out of Mike Tyson's mouth to do so. They're amazing sometimes. Sometimes they're philosophical, sometimes they're insightful, sometimes they're just funny, but it really is unlike the Mike Tyson most people have experienced in the past just by watching him box. Sometimes his guests can ramble on about things that are important to them, but may not be of particular interest to the viewer. But Mike has a real gift of making extremely insightful observations that are both pertinent to the discussion and helpful to the audience and their ability to understand the topic. He makes observations and comments during the show that can only come from a human being that has experienced what he's witnessed and led the life that he has led. The other thing that's really interesting is how brutally honest Mike is. Sometimes during a podcast interview, Mike will say things with such brutal honesty that they go off like truth grenades during the conversation. To the inexperienced viewer, the first thing you think is, why did he say that? I can't believe he just said that. But then you can't get what he just said out of your mind for the next half hour. It's as though his new knockout punch has become the truth, and he's even more comfortable using it than he was in hitting people in the ring. What's interesting about hearing the truth in such a brutal and honest way is how it silences the room for a second and causes everyone in the conversation to acknowledge it, because it's simply undeniable. Some people at the interview table will laugh when they hear it. Some people will try and counter with something equally insightful or witty. But the most common reaction that most people have is that they can't believe how honest he just was. We live in a world where honesty is being driven into extinction, and that is causing some people to lose their ability to recognize it when they see it or when they hear it. Hopefully, hearing Mike Tyson tell the truth as often as he does will cause more people to start recognizing it and appreciating it. Thank you for watching, and we will talk to you soon.